Hello, Patrick. Today we got to play around quite a bit with Splinter Cell Blacklist. We played a lot of the single player, but what a lot of our community is hungering for is that multiplayer. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the co-op features as it could apply to many of the families, the husbands and wives, the partners that are playing at this in their homes?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we sort of have often said philosophically about co-op, it was certainly something we started to look at with Conviction, Splinter Cell Conviction, and I think it's carried over into Splinter Cell Blacklist, is that the joy of playing Splinter Cell as a cooperative experience comes from the fact that, one, your teammate is inherently super entertaining, right? So even when things are going completely wrong, I mean, the part of the excitement and the joy comes from being able to kind of tease each other in a good-natured way, when stuff screws up, or give each other props when somebody saves the day. And so what we've tried to do is create some features that are really designed to help, I think, promote those kinds of moments. And I would use the example of you take a bullet and you fall to the ground and you're bleeding out and your bar is there, and then you have to make a decision as to whether you lie there and play possum or you sit up and equip your pistol to try to protect yourself or to potentially protect your teammate. And you're still able to mark enemies, but meanwhile your teammate feels this time pressure to come race to your aid. And I think having those kind of moments of sort of mutual rescue are pretty fertile ground for some amazing emergent moments of gameplay. And I think the other side of it is that we've really taken a philosophy that the levels themselves need to be super open and provide lots of paths, so that even if one player goes running out in a totally reckless fashion, the other player can remain hidden and kind of gets this amazing vantage point from which to observe the misadventure unfold, right? So I think that's a lot of fun, and so I think as a sort of co-op experience, there aren't too many opportunities out there for two people to be able to sit there and play through a kind of a short session that's tailor-made for co-op. We're not about putting together 2-hour-long missions that two people need to both stick around for. It's really kind of 15-minute, 20-minute chunks that you can kind of enjoy, and then you make a decision whether to move on to the next one or take a break or go play something else for a while. And I think that's cool too. I think it makes it friendlier for people who have busy schedules and want to try to coordinate something with one of their friends or family members. The other thing for us, of course, historically, is that we supported split screen, and that made it a kind of a couch co-op obvious feature for people, and being able to sit there and not have to have necessarily a full network setup and high speed and multiple monitors, but being able to sit there and talk to somebody who's sitting right next to you and give them the elbow to the ribs when something goes wrong, I think is a big part of that.
Now, one thing I really liked about what we saw of Splinter Cell Blacklist was the single player, the co-op, and even Spider vs. Merc seems to sort of meld in this overall presentation through the SMI.
Right.
Will people who are strict single player players be able to get a robust experience of the game? And two, can you just talk about how that game meld of different ways to play the game sort of come together as a philosophy in Blacklist?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been an interesting challenge, particularly in games of this most recent generation, which is that we all in the game development world know that we have to deliver a lot of value for people, and so we tend to produce multiple modes. So you'll have a single player experience and a co-op experience and a competitive experience, multiplayer experience that are often feel quite separated from each other, artificially so. In some cases, they're not even the same, executable on disk. It's really like three distinct pieces of code. Some cases having been worked on by different teams. And I think with us, what we set out to do was say, look, we're working within a common fiction, so you'll understand sort of how co-op relates to single player. You'll understand that there's an organization here that puts spies out into the field, and that kind of forms the basis of our Spies vs. Mercs multiplayer. And as well, we want to make sure that all that content is visible. We don't want to have a game where you're constantly having to dig around in menus in order to gain access to that gameplay. We want you to feel like it's right there in front of you. And that's where the SMI came into play. It's meant to be Sam's window on the world in terms of his understanding of the global hotspots. It's actually really the player's window on the game in terms of seeing, oh look, there's all these single player missions. Oh hey, there's my friends, they're online. I can see which co-op missions I've unlocked, and I can fire this up anytime I want to. So I think it's ease of access, but done in a way that respects the fiction of the game, of the series. The other part of it too is that everybody probably has their focus. I mean, there are players that are mainly multiplayer players, but they like to play a little bit of co-op sometimes socially and some single player. There's some players that are almost entirely single player, but will still occasionally dip into co-op if they've got a friend over. And certainly with two-player co-op, it makes it an easy, there's a low barrier to entry there, right? So what's great about that is we have an economy system that really allows you to feed into that economy and generate money and earn points through any of the game modes, and then you can turn around and spend it on any of the customization features of the game. So that could mean that you play mostly single player, and then you dip into the fourth echelon missions as a solo experience because you can play most of them solo and generate a bunch of money so that you can unlock gadgets and weapons and that. Or it could be that you're just really interested in Spies vs. Mercs, and so you're playing a little bit of co-op with friends and then focusing on really getting good and leveling up in terms of the competitive side. So all of those things are feeding into a common slush fund, if you will, for fourth echelon, and so that makes it easier. It makes it feel like you're not having to choose which part of the game you're going to try to get good at and try to achieve it. It's like everything you're doing is contributing to that. Even our mobile game that we're releasing in tandem with the core experience, even though it's a little iPhone Spider-Bot game or Android Spider-Bot game, the points that you're earning on there are going into your main pool of points. So we really wanted to share all that. We didn't want to have a lot of sort of unnecessary complexity to it. We wanted instead to focus on the depth of the game systems and the game's mechanics so that players would feel like they always have an ability to get better and master things. And I think when you're playing with somebody else, when you're playing either cooperatively or competitively with someone, watching people get better is that's kind of part of the fun of the game too.
Now, the game's coming out in August.
Yeah.
What are you most looking forward to, as not only as this is sort of your baby for the last few years, but what are you looking forward to discovering from the community as you get millions of people finally playing the game?
I mean, I think one of the things that's always been very important about the Splinter Cell franchise is that it's a really systemic game, and it's really it's what we call a high agency game. There's a lot of player power there, a lot of player choice in terms of being able to take actions in the game world, being able to look around and look at the level design and look at the ingredients in the game world and look at the tools that you have and come up with creative, expressive ways of playing. And so we as developers, we can anticipate some of those things, and we can certainly design features to be used a certain way, but we never really get to see just how amazing the game is until players get a hold of it, and then it's anarchy, right? And I think, there's some amazing YouTube videos of that go back all the way to the original Splinter Cell that show players doing things and setting things up in a certain way to yield a really amazing, entertaining result. And I think I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing all of these features that we brought together kind of combine in interesting and unpredictable ways.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.